Yes, I'm gonna start streaming. Okay. So yeah. Hello everyone. If uh, if if you're just coming in just now, this is Jedi Master 362, and I am evaluating my retail job experience, as mentioned. Um, Now, I don't know um, if there's been like if it's been streamed at all. Let me just no. Damn. So I've been talking to myself for nothing. Okay, so as as I've been saying though, this is about my retail job experience and basically how horrible it was. Um, so what happened was I started with this. It basically started with a chaotic afternoon. I um, received a phone call from my employment agency at the time. Um, and they basically said they found me a job. And I was like, yes, this is my lucky break. This is what I've been wanting to hear. Great work, great work. Now, bear in mind, um, what these people find as work is not this, like, while it's good, it's not really good. Like, the employment guy was saying, um, well, we've got you a job at this store, uh, and I thought that there, like, because he mentioned a couple of options, I thought that there was a little bit of a joke because it was in sales, not computers, and I'm the kind of person that wants a computer job. Now, this guy, he's like, "Oh, it's okay. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but you know what? You'll do just fine. You'll do just fine. It's gonna be happy for you." It wasn't. There was two locations, um, two retail locations, and I thought it was gonna be the closer one to take this thing out, but it turned out to be the further location. So yay! Strike one against that job. So yeah, I'm gonna go according to like these sections I prepared in advance for my evaluation. So section 0, there's 2-day variance because um, I've had an accident like before my second last week there, and we'll get there when I get there. Um, Now, there's a pre-accident and post-accident. Pre-accident, that means yeah, like, yeah. Even then, like, my physical performance wasn't up to snuff. Let's just put it that way. So, morning of the first day, I'm driven to that workplace. Well, yeah, and before I get there, I just want to reveal that speech that my dad gave me. So the night of uh, when I found out the news that I had that job, um, basically, my dad gave me this awful speech when me and him were alone, and he said something like this here: you've been given a crappy job, and you know what? You're gonna take this crappy job, and you know what? The managers, they're gonna have their own rules. You're gonna follow these rules. They're gonna give you tasks that you're not gonna like, and you know what? Too bad, because you're gonna look at them, you're gonna smile, and you're gonna say thank you. and yeah, you can tell that it was pretty fucked up. Anyways, so um, because of that, um, yeah, you can imagine that's just how uneasy it was for me. Um, but yeah, um, I've had to endure this job for 12 weeks. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now we're at the morning of the first workday. Now I didn't need to rush too much. I basically had to just, you know, get ready, get driven to work. And while we were waiting for this employment guy, uh, I, me and my mom were like looking at just how they operate the store, and it baffled me because it's like, you know, you see this one guy carrying um, like heavy product, and that was not the greatest thing to see, and then to top it all off, like that insult to injury, my mom's like, huh, look, that's what you're gonna do. That's what you're gonna do for paycheck. That's what you're gonna do to keep your job. So that was it's like you know, punch a guy, and then it's like, you know, rub a ball of fire right in the wound. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, beginning of that job wasn't all that bad. I mean, I was being trained, believe it or not, but within a few weeks, it started to go downhill. It's like the job there, the job title of technology sales, you know what, for some reason, it was void. And why I say that is because how can you call yourself a technology salesperson if you're the guy doing everything but technology sales? And I wasn't operating the cash or anything. I was like doing most of the physical labor at the time, like after it started going downhill. And it was just crazy. So, yeah, let's see just how um, my morning routine was. So, this is a pre-accident workday. So the start of it is as follows. I look, or I don't look. Sorry. Um, I I am forced awake at around 6 o'clock. Now I have to get up. I have to like get ready, right? Do my morning routine. So breakfast, combing my hair, brushing my teeth, and whatnot. Now remember, I'm getting ready for a dumb job for like like for 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours max, because I have to be at the bus stop by 8 o'clock, precisely 8 o'clock, even though they don't pass by like precisely at that point. Anyways, um, so I get on the bus. Then, as soon as I arrive at the terminal, like a good half hour later, I think, um, I cannot waste any time. Literally, I cannot waste any time. I have to catch a connecting bus to get to that workplace, to that store. And then then oh man, it's just crazy. Like the uh, conditions to get there were not the best. It's like they don't have any pedestrian crossing lights or anything. Um, so basically, I would have to break the law just to get to work. What I mean by that is I had to cross like onto the highway, dodging traffic as I go along, and yeah, so that was pretty awful. So yeah, so anyways, let's say I get to the store. Now what do I do? Well, um, for a good while I would just, get taught and whatever. But after a while, what happened was, um, I, yeah, like I said, I would be put on different tasks, stuff that was not all that great, like memorizing where paper clips were, where this went, where that went. It's like it had no relation to the job whatsoever. Like your department is like on side A of the store, and yet you're primarily working on side B. Now, keep in mind that in the later part of my term, I get a job coach. And believe me, this lady is no angel. Despite being a former school teacher. Yeah, a former school teacher. Now, you would think that, a school teacher, his former school teacher would have been a great job coach, but there's a problem. She's not. She's harping on my walking speed. She nags about it a lot. Like, say that I'm holding a cart. I'm pushing a cart, and I'm perfectly aligned with one of those pillars. Yeah, pillars. And I'm just a few feet away from that. At that point, she would tell me to walk faster. Or there's a little kid that's about to run right in front of the cart. Idiot job coach would tell me to walk faster. So stupid things like that. And I purposefully walked slower every time she did that, just to say, hey, lady, back off. Because that's not the appropriate time to walk faster. It's kind of like, being a student driver and having a driving instructor telling you to speed up, yet there's people crossing right in front of you. You don't crank up the speed, just slow down. Anyway, so yeah, stupid shit like that. Now comes the accident. My workday basically gets a little squirrely, and we'll get to that in a moment. So when I'm working there, or when I was, sorry, because this was a few years ago, yeah, I've had tasks to do, like, unloading paper stacks onto shelves, or basically putting stuff away, stuff like that. Now, I was taught the health and safety rules and regulations on the first day. Thank God. And I was told that the store has a threshold for like how many infractions they can have before they get shut down. I should have exposed them for that, because in a day there was way more infractions than a tolerable thing. It's like to this day I'm surprised that they're still open. Like that store is still living and breathing here. Anyway, so yeah, I think it was like around 5 infractions, like that's within the tolerable buffer. Like in a fiscal year. Anyway, so yeah, so like I said, I had to endure quite a bit of bullshit from the drop coach, like nagging, like I said about the walking speed. Yeah, then there was a couple of retarded incidents. One of which uh, involves a manager, and the second incident involves the job coach herself. And both of these incidents are abusive. So the first one, believe it or not, in the first one, I'm going through all these boxes. I'm like looking at the boxes in one column, and I determine, oh, nope, none of these match what I'm trying to put away. Even the bottom one, I know, I've seen it, I checked it. The job coach, she's an idiot. She grabs me by my wrist there after after a little bit of arguing, and she forces my arm down. And to me there, that was like, no, that was not appropriate at all. And whenever I mention that to people, they're genuinely surprised because of like the visual demonstration, and they say, you could have been hurt, and that's assault, what that lady did. And I agree. In any case, and second incident involves that one manager, and he was like a bull, really. So in this case, I'm opening a little like little package there, and I think here I am mistaking it for a conveniently packed individualized set of toner cartridges, and basically what happens is, for some reason that was a pack, not 3 individualized cartridges. And yeah, so this is how it turns out. Yeah, the manager, he's like, what are you doing? Right after he charges at me like a bull. And like, he's right in my face at this point there after shouting. And then he's like, you did this before, we told you already, you don't do that, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what, man, just take a chill pill. It's an honest mistake. I've never done this before. I don't know where you're getting that misinformation from. And like, in the back of my mind, I'm saying that there, but I just tell him, you know what, sorry, I did not know that this was a pack, not 3 individual cartridges. And he points out that it said so right on the box, and it did say on the box. But that was like a very dumb thing, though, because it's like, you would have thought that the job coach would have stepped in at that point. She didn't. Instead, she was just browsing. Don't you just love it when you can conveniently do your work and people suffer as a result? Anyway, I approached the job coach with that, and she, when I tell her about it, she's like, "Oh no, why didn't you tell me anything? I could have been there." It's like, fuck, lady, you were right there. You were fucking. If you only you would have witnessed it, you know. It's like, believe me, I kept my profanities to myself there. I kept my snarky comments to myself. But I did point out though that she could have been watching at that point. Anyways, so that was dumb. Um, and yeah, so on the last day of the time with my job coach, by the way, um, yeah, this little gem happens. The idiot sees me transferring like a whole box of like paper snacks, and I transfer that to a shopping cart, and I bring the shopping cart to the other side of the aisle. Now, bear in mind, that's so that I can do this one task, like without having to worry. Like I'm basically just, trying to do this task in an orderly fashion, like timely manner, because the way they showed me, very time consuming. It's like my back is not good, okay, and carrying 40 pounds of paper per trip for very slow pace, not good. So I don't know where she was getting that garbage information from, that that I was going faster when carrying the two stacks at the same time there. It's like, yeah, no, that's bull. Because that's more distance. More distance does not equate more speed, just so you know. Anyway, so stupidity like that. And yeah, instead of noticing my efforts to be time wise and time efficient, she gives this little bit of stupidity. She blatantly looks down on it. She's like, I don't know how you can do this like this, because your coworkers, while you're doing this, your coworkers are getting stuff done. To me, that's like one of the biggest insults. And I'm like telling her, you know what? I'm getting the feeling that you're looking down on it. And she's like, very good. And then like later on, me and her have like an evaluation before she and I part ways. And dumbass of dumbasses, she says this. She says that she doesn't want to leave me on a bad note. Well, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? Too bad. It's already done. You've already crossed the line too many times during this thing. And I'm thinking that in the back of my mind, and I'm like, you know what? Like my verbal response though was, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's like she basically acted very dumb. Yeah, and I was just not happy with her. And like almost to the point where I almost said, "Get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome." You know. That's just how awful the job coach was. So now we're at the part where I've got my accident that Sunday, like right after. So Saturday, nothing. So Sunday, there's that accident. So what happens is, I'm on my e-bike and I'm going down this road. To make a long story short, and there's a couple from like out of town, and I signal to them that I'm going to turn onto a side road that's coming up, and I'm looking at their vehicle in my mirror. They're not changing their speed there, or if they are, they're increasing, not decreasing their speed. And as I'm about to prepare turning, I nearly get clipped. And yeah, that was dumb. And so, like, in the last moment, I turned, like, I put on the brakes and I turned hard. Next thing I remember, I I was on the ground being pinned by my e-bike, and I had rocks in my mouth and I was bleeding, like shoulder, elbow, and knee, all on my left side. And long story short, I head back home and I get treatment for that. And so, despite this accident, I decided to go to work the next day. Even though I could have called in sick, even if I could have said, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do it today. But no, I went in, and yeah, like I explained to the management about the accident, and yeah, so they were sad for me, but they didn't do much to help me otherwise. But they did show their sympathy for me. Oh yeah, and before I go any further, bear in mind, I had to endure all this bullshit for 12 weeks, because the original term was 6 weeks, but they expanded it to 12. Because, yeah, that was like how I got around to getting a job coach. Anyways, okay, so yeah, the pay rate, it was minimum wage, and I was not getting much money. Let's just put it at that. So, yeah, think it was glorious at the time? No, it was not. Ladies and gentlemen, it was not glorious to work in retail. Although you already knew that. Now, post-accident, basically it was the same morning routine. Getting ready for the day, getting ready to get to the bus and all that, and catching the connecting bus. But on those days, every time I moved my left arm or leg, because I still needed to walk, it felt like either my arm or leg or both would just rip off. It felt that awkward. But I did it anyway. I kept on going at it anyways. And again, like, my rate of pay was not changed. It was not increased like out of sympathy. Nothing. Nothing. Anyways, so I fucking endured those last 2 weeks for just minimum pay and minimum respect. And the general manager of that store, like on my last day, he, like, when I approach him there about, you know, the status, he tells me you didn't make it into the team, and there was just so much stuff, bullshit like that. It's like, you know what, fuck it, keep your little minimum wage bullshit, because I've had enough of it. You know what, get someone else to feel like a paid slave. You know, it's crazy. You're working your ass off physically, and you're getting minimum pay and minimum respect. I don't have the time, patience, and all that there to endure that in life. So in the back of my mind, I thought, you know what? Thank you for the compliment. And so when I headed back home, I visited the employment guy, and I told him about it, and he said he would find me another job. But shortly after, though, you know what? Like, me and my mom decided, you know what? Um, the experience was one dumb experience too many. So we switched employment agencies. So yeah, that's about that in a nutshell. Um, yeah, but yeah, so after a while though, I did have a change of my morning routine when I got there. Um, and like, and it was for a good cause. Like I would bring ink and toner cartridges from the recycling bins to the back, and I would sort them out and put them away, like for yeah, for that, and like so that it could be recycled. And so um yeah, it was for schools and all that there, and that was nice. But uh for some reason there, the idiots did not think of one thing. Like while they warned me that toner stains clothes, like it once it's on there, it doesn't come off and whatnot. They did not say how to prevent yourself from getting toner stains. So I've got a stained pair of pants because of that. So yeah, thank you, stupid store. Yeah, you want me to say thank you? Yeah, thank you for being stupid. Yeah, stupid store. Yeah. So yeah, for $11 an hour, meaning $44 per day. Now, that's how much I made. $44 per day. Now, they said that they made like 100 times, um, roughly, by selling just this one sort of product alone per day. And it's like, oh my god, it's like as if you guys don't offer much more pay than that, than this cheapy chump skate pay rate. In any case, um, yeah, that blasted job was like one of the worst, hands down. Because, or no, not one of the worst, the absolute worst, because it was so stupid. Um, yeah. In any case, um, So what I'm telling you all this for is so that you know what you're dealing with, especially if you're getting a job in retail. If those idiot managers try to like get you to do stuff that's gonna hurt you, try to refuse them, because like making your physical injuries worse or anything worse just for a paycheck is not worth it. Um, I hope that this helps somebody, and if for some reason you want to vent out about this job, about your retail job or something like that, or if you know somebody that is struggling with retail job, just send a link to this live stream, and hopefully that this information can help them. Like with you know with anything basically, because yeah, I find that was not fair. That was definitely not a fair job, and so yeah. Um, in any case, this is Jedi Master 362, and I hope you have a nice day and a great work day.